Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western Practical Astrologer. So today we are going to be talking all about the role of your Aries and Pisces houses throughout 2025, because there's a lot happening within these signs, within these houses. A lot of rebirths, a lot of endings, new beginnings, things coming to a close through a lot of self-acceptance. So we're going to get into it, but before we do, if you would like to learn more about astrology, then you can head on over to the Cosmic Check-In podcast. There are loads of episodes up, and if you would like to book a reading with me, then you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. Plus, if you're interested in learning how to read your birth chart simply, there is my bestseller, The Astrology Cheat Sheets. Okay, so let's just go through some important information, some key dates, notes, just things to be mindful of, to be aware of. Of course, I am recording this January of 2025, and the information we're going to be talking about is more around March time. Okay, March, April. So let's begin. The thing is that we have Saturn on the move this year. We also have Neptune on the move. Plus, there is a Venus and Mercury retrograde actually happening within these same signs. I mean, it's very, very potent. Okay, we have Venus and Mercury starting their retrograde motion from early stages of Aries, and then they will move back into Pisces. So, this is going to be very much highlighted March until April time. But get this, get this. So, Venus and Mercury will both move into Pisces for the retrograde motion at the end of March. So there's a 4-day period, 4 days, the very end of March, from the 27th of March until the 30th, where Venus comes into Pisces, there's a solar eclipse in Aries, Mercury comes into Pisces, and then Neptune the following day moves into Aries from Pisces. So, yes, the stars are trying to tell us something. Well, the planets, space, the cosmos, indeed, they are trying to tell us something here. And we're going to get into it. We're going to really discuss things more on a personal level for each of the signs. But the other thing to mention then is that the nodes have recently entered Pisces. Okay, so they were in North Node was in Aries, South Node was in Libra from July of 2023 all the way up until January. And so there is a video all about that, just kind of reflecting a little bit on your horoscopes, what happened for you. And then there's also some more information about what that nodal shift means for you. I'll link all of the horoscopes for 2025 below, so all those videos. So indeed, we see here profound change. And I think in many ways, this aligns with how 2025 is a massive year for really asking ourselves, how do we want to be a part of the future, right? Because this is about a new era. It really is. And Pluto coming into Aquarius has ushered this in for us. So Pluto will be in Aquarius for the next 20 years. A whole new landscape here is being ushered in. But 2025 is kind of like a cosmic check-in. It's kind of like a cosmic review. It's a time to really ask ourselves who we are, what do we want out of life, where are we headed? And we had an opportunity to do that, I think, with the North Node in Aries since July of 2023. Even with Chiron being in Aries, a lot of that stuff was about our wounds, our pains, our traumas, things that perhaps we were too afraid to process, to look at, to address within ourselves. But hey, at the same time, through such an examination and exploration, we were able to identify more so with our wounds, with our pain. And also, a lot of this stuff was about our authenticity, exploring, okay, who we are, asking ourselves, what do we want? And considering times in which maybe we have gotten in our own way, when we haven't asserted ourselves so much. Do keep in mind that the South Node was also in Libra, so a lot of that stuff was about how we show up within partnerships, within relationships, thinking about easing up on any codependency or people pleasing tendencies there. But you see, Saturn and Neptune will follow, right? Neptune will enter into Aries, and there will be this final solar eclipse in Aries. So, kind of closing off this chapter for us, but also within itself, embracing a new chapter. Especially when we think about how Neptune will be this first sort of generational planet, this outer planet to move into Aries. First time, by the way, in like what, 150 years, something like that. So, pretty big, really. So, what we're approaching here is this assessment of what are the stories we tell ourselves, about ourselves, maybe. What is it that needs to be transcended or through a spiritual lens? Asking ourselves even about compassion and kindness, self forgiveness. Yeah. And at the same time, Saturn is going to come in as well, right? So Saturn will enter Aries around about May of 2025, just to dip its toe in, right? But Saturn will join up with Neptune, you see, and could provide some healthy boundaries or structures to kind of help Neptune with, because Neptune can sort of get carried away and caught up in the make believe, fantasies, disillusionments, things like that. So hopefully, Saturn can create some healthy form, more of a firmness, more of a structure. But then, just as much, Neptune can dissolve those boundaries. Maybe it can help soften the harshness of Saturn slightly. But whichever way this plays out between these two massive giants, I suppose, is in Aries. This is about the self. Okay, when we just reflect upon the archetype of Aries in general, we strip it back. It's about the self. It's about authenticity. It's about your identity. And it's about the ways in which you initiate and assert yourself within the world, how you stand up for yourself. Individuality, very much so with Aries. And at the same time, we want to consider how Venus, like I said, and Mercury will retrograde, starting from Aries and then into Pisces. So, what I'm picking up from this is if Mercury is tied to our mind and our intellect, how we process information, right? How we sort of organize our thoughts. And if Venus is about our senses and our body, thinking just even about sensuality tied to Venus and just feeling safe and secure within our very bodies. It's almost as if the retrogrades of these planets will usher in an honest review about, okay, am I honestly ready to embark on this next step of my spiritual journey? Think about how the North Node is now in Pisces and will certainly be involved in this conversation because North Node entered Pisces January of 2025, will be there for 18 months. And so this is about destiny, it's about fate, it's about your soul's purpose, your soul's mission. So, have you been living in alignment with that? And I think, therefore, we're noticing 2025 as being a huge transitional period, collectively speaking, especially when we think about the numerology, okay? Because, yeah, it equates to the number 9 in these numerology terms. And so this is about endings, but it's also a check in period to ask yourself if you're ready and willing to embark on the new chapter. The thing is, even just before we get into your horoscopes here, is that, yeah, growing pains can happen. It can feel uncomfortable. I think having to deal with so much change in such a short period of time, that's a lot. And That's what we're going to see, I think. Hey, this is already being ushered in even from January here. Consider how Venus is now in Pisces and Venus is about to enter her pre-shadow period over the next couple of weeks, something like that. With Mars being retrograde coming into the new year in Cancer and then also making those alignments with the North Node in Pisces. How emotionally draining, right? How emotionally overwhelming. It's just like, oh my gosh, can I just catch a break? Can it just end, please? Consider even how Mars retrograde with the opposition to Pluto and then the Sun being involved and everything, right? Sun in Capricorn, Pluto in Aquarius. We're approaching this Sun Pluto conjunction as we come into Aquarius season. Maybe I'm going off a little bit here, but indeed, the point being that we can feel the pressure. I think that on a maybe perhaps a subconscious or very conscious level, we can feel the pressures of how the world is going to change. And so, again, I think this is about asking ourselves, are we ready and willing to be a part of that change? And what is the change we wish to see? Because the thing about Pluto and Aquarius is it's about the people, right? It's about the people. And you can see this. You can see people's uproar, the the riots and people pushing back against authority very strongly so, especially since 2020, right? But this is about asking ourselves what we want when it comes to the next step. You may have this vision in mind about your life path, your life trajectory. But what if there's something completely different out there that you haven't thought about yet? This, I feel, is what's really going to be brought into focus this year for many of us. So, on that note, let's get into your horoscopes. Okay, so let's do this. Let's get into your horoscopes, and we're going to try and keep this short and sweet to the point. Okay, Aries, let's discuss you. Let me first start off by saying that you have been on this spiritual quest, this spiritual mission and 11. Spiritual awakenings have perhaps happened for many Aries out there. And with Saturn coming into your 12th since March of 2023, this has also been an opportunity for you to create a form to your spiritual practices, to also use healthy discernment, healthy discretion, or to put in healthy limits or show forms of skepticism too. And a lot of this stuff, I think, then collectively overall for you has been about healing. It has been about tuning in with what it is that you crave spiritually. Now, this year, so when we think about 2025, this is still going to be a part of the journey for you. And a lot of the stuff that's going to unfold is going to be like a tap on your shoulder saying, hey, this is part of your soul's purpose. This is part of your soul's mission. And a lot of this stuff is about self acceptance, trust, being able to let go. Could be a bit of a challenge for you, honestly, but maybe you've already put in that groundwork, right? You've laid this solid foundation already with Saturn in your 12th. We could also look at this as destiny, right? This fate, this almost like a higher calling, as if, yes, this is part of my purpose. I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to retreat. I'm supposed to be in solitude. I'm supposed to align with my spiritual gifts. At the same time, I do want to mention that what you're kind of coming out of in a way is that of a period of really having to address your aims, your goals, your independence, your individuality, what you want out of life, right? With these new chapters, these new beginnings, with the North Node being in your first house since July of 2023. With Chiron there, yes, there were certain trigger points, challenging emotional situations, and really having to face your self-assertion. And then what we see is that throughout 2025, Saturn and Neptune will come into your first house. And so you're going to get a sneak peek, this glimpse, this beginning of a new chapter stuff to do with a new quest. And I think a part of that quest is about you bringing your spiritual gifts along with you, or it could be what feels like an entirely new landscape, this rebirth, this whole new world that it almost feels like it's a whole new world that you're going to see. And maybe a big part of this is about I'm ready. I am ready to face the next challenge. Bring it on, universe. It's that sort of attitude. And just lastly, with the Venus and Mercury retrogrades happening March, April time for you, that will be an opportunity for you to really reflect upon your body, your mind, be able to prepare yourself. I think that's what the retrograde in both retrogrades in Aries and Pisces is representing. It's like a preparation period. It's a period of sort of going into the cocoon before you become the butterfly. It's that transformational period, but it's getting the body in line with all of the big massive changes because Venus and Mercury are more personal planets. Thank you, Aries. And now on to Taurus. Okay, so Taurus, let's think about how, when it comes to your communities and your groups, you've been really trying to feel into who you align with, perhaps on a more spiritual level. And I do also think that with the North Node being in your 11th house over the next 18 months, we could see you meeting certain groups or friends, being a part of the movement, being a part of an organization where it does feel like destiny. It feels like, oh my gosh, this was meant to be. Where have you been my whole life? It's that sort of influence here. But again, I think over the past couple of years, what's been brought into focus for you is, you know what? I don't really align with these people. I'm not really in tune with their aims or their collective goals, their collective visions. But at the same time, there are certain people that you do align with. So I think, yeah, a lot of this stuff for you has been about finding a community, finding groups of people where you feel this connection and it feels genuine, it feels safe, you feel supported, especially emotionally, Taurus. Okay, let's then also consider how from July of 2023 until January of 2025, what was really brought into focus for you was this period of, okay, energetically, how am I doing? How am I doing? And I think for many of you Taurians, you've taken strong or long moments, long periods of stepping behind the scenes to get a feel for, get a sense for who am I, right? Who am I behind the scenes, out of the public eye? With Chiron in the 12th, perhaps there were some wounds you addressed, painful situations about your identity, about your individuality. But coming out of that period, hopefully then you see things in a whole different light. And it's almost as if behind the scenes you were able to reinvent yourself in some way, shape, or form, Taurus. And then to also further add to this, come March, let's just say this. Throughout 2025, you're going to get a glimpse of this, well, I think a newfound sense of what spirituality really means to you. And I think that that's going to be a major key area for you, right? It's more about your relationship with spirituality or your relationship with a higher power. It's those kinds of questions I feel that are going to be brought into focus. But then again, this could also be a case of many of you Taurians throughout 2025 realizing that, yeah, I need to take care of myself. I need my own energy here back. I need to focus on myself. I can't keep giving. I can't keep doing the same thing over and over. So, yeah, we're going to notice these themes for you. And do keep in mind that March, April time with the retrogrades, what's going to happen, I feel, for you is that you're going to be able to hopefully review communities and groups and teams, and also equally review, okay, these questions to do with what does spirituality mean to me? It's getting you prepared for this new chapter when it comes to these areas of your life. Thank you, Taurus. And now on to Gemini. All right, Gemini. Let's talk about your Aries and Pisces houses throughout 2025. First up, let's just put it this way. You have been on what feels like this more, well, it could be more of a spiritual path with relation to your career, your professional life, or we could look at this as you just being very much open to change over these past couple of years, or you've really tuned in with, okay, well, whenever I fail into an opportunity or a position, how does that align with me energetically, emotionally, spiritually, all of that? And I also think that we've noticed you be quite the chameleon to try new things, variety, all that stuff, and to be quite flexible in terms of the sorts of positions or roles you take on. Sure, we could also view this as things being a little bit confusing at times or a little bit delusional at times, maybe especially from other people where there's some of this fog or there is deception where people are not very honest, things like that. And you've had to really, I think, since March of 2023, use a great deal of discernment and be wise and mature and responsible to sort of go, hey, you know what? No, this is my boundary. This is my limit. I'm just not accepting this. But hey, equally, we could look at this as many of you Gemini taking on maybe more authority roles, right? I think many of you Gemini have truly stepped up when it comes to your careers, your professional lives. And I think you've cut through those perhaps overbearing matters where it's all just, like energy vampires from employers, and they think they can just manipulate and get people to do what they want. It's that sort of influence, I think, slightly. Oh, you got to make all these sacrifices for the company, for the organization, right? But actually, I think Saturn, in a way, as challenging as Saturn can be, where yeah, it's about having to put in the work and make the efforts if it is that you want to make a change. But I think you've really shown up for yourself and you've advocated for yourself in this way. Then again, I could be partly speaking to your Aries influence in the 11th, which we will get to in just a moment. But you see, the thing is that the North Node has come into your 10th and will be there for the next 18 months. So throughout 2025, what we're going to notice for you is that, yeah, there could be what feels like things coming to completion and ending when it comes to your professional life, or there could be some sort of new position or just a new way of showing up when it comes to your professional life. But you see, I think also this is about aligning with your spiritual gifts. This is maybe even about what feels like destiny, what feels like fate when it comes to a certain employer or when it comes to a manager or a connection within your career, a certain position. It's just calling your name, and you say, okay, yes, universe, I'll go for that. Okay. So there could be these fated moments throughout 2025 when it comes to your professional life. So that's interesting. But then we also think about how since July of 2023, you have been brave and bold and daring. You've advocated for yourself when it comes to groups and certain clubs that you want to be a part of, organizations, companies you want to be a part of. And I think a big part of this has been about striving for the things you want, right? Creating your own future, creating your own destiny, so to speak, with the North Node in your 11th. And even just leading within teams, leading within groups. And hey, at the same time with Chiron in your 11th, maybe there were certain friendships, right? Certain friendships that you had to let go of, certain painful experiences, rejections, things like that. Could even be strongly tied to community or to this group mentality more so. But The thing is that 2025, we're going to notice you really step it up in many ways when it comes to wider networks, even when it comes to social media, right? Thinking about viewership, subscribers, the online space. We're going to see you enter what feels like this whole new era or landscape when it comes to the people you surround yourself with, the kinds of people that you, well, involve yourself with. And I just think that community is going to be a major focus point for you, Gemini. Though, what I will mention is with March, April time, there's going to be the retrogrades. And so I think what's going to be addressed, hopefully, and refined to an extent, is that of asking yourself, okay, well, am I ready, willing to let that go when it comes to that position or that reputation of mine or that persona? Am I ready? That accomplishment maybe that I'm striving for, but actually, do I align with that? All these questions could come up. And then also a lot of this is about really asking yourself about the kinds of groups, causes, movements, organizations that you want to take the lead within. And the thing is, just quickly here, Gemini, is indeed, this is a glimpse, right? This new chapter stuff coming through when it comes to groups and communities. You're at the beginning stages. But overall, this is about new developments when it comes to your collective visions. Thank you, Gemini. And now on to Cancer. All right, Cancer, let's now talk about your Aries and Pisces houses throughout 2025. Well, where do we begin? We think about how you have been what feels like, on this spiritual quest, this spiritual mission. When we consider Neptune being in your ninth, Saturn being in your ninth, I actually see many Cancerians traveling for spiritual purposes, spiritual reasons, or it's that it's been through travel that you've connected more so with your spiritual self or with divinity in some way, shape, or form. We also just think about how you've been questioning things, I think, a lot. You've been questioning the very meaning of life, and you've been asking yourself all of these, I guess, these bigger questions about why you're here and existence, all of that. And maybe your philosophies have really came into focus, your morals, your code of ethics have came into focus. We also look at this as you taking on higher educational programs that perhaps are more aligned with you spiritually or emotionally, or it's that you want to use your education in some way, your training in some way to help others, to support other people. But you see, when we think about 2025, with the North Node coming into your ninth, we could perhaps see this as this destined feeling, these fated connections tied to professors, lecturers, hey, spiritual people that you look up to. This could also be this trip that you go on that is so spiritually enlightening. It could also be that what is continued on here really with the North Node in the ninth is that it's just you trying to focus on, okay, well, how can I ease up on anything that's too overwhelming or burdensome for me? Because I suppose even with Saturn in your ninth, perhaps things have been quite challenging when it comes to your beliefs, right? Maybe you've kind of been fighting with God, so to speak, or you've been lashing out at the universe, at the cosmos, and you've been thinking, why me? Why is this happening to me? I just think I think the belief that you have in a higher power has been challenged substantially. And I think the reason for why that is because of very real situations, right? Real situations in your life. And such situations could, of course, involve loss. So, still, The North Node in your ninth, I think, invites more of this surrender, this serenity, or more of this acceptance when it comes to things that you can't really explain or know 100%. All of these things, I think, are going to be brought into focus for you. And there's going to be a lot that you'll learn from your experiences. And that's the thing about the ninth house as well, is that we tend to pass on our experiences, we pass on our knowledge to others. So you may find that from the work you've been putting in and the learning that you've been doing, this is where we're going to see you perhaps sharing your gifts, sharing your knowledge with the world. And hopefully in that exchange, you can really help other people. Be compensated too for your gifts as well, might I say. But hey, this leads us on to Aries. So since July of 2023, what also came through, as all the other spiritual stuff is happening, what came into focus for you was that of your career success, establishing yourself as a leader, as a coach, as a mentor, being recognized maybe as someone who knows what they're talking about and someone who knows what they're doing, to be this leader, to be this pioneer in many ways, to take on new positions, right? Maybe this is what we've noticed for you, Cancer, is that you have taken on a different role, a completely new role, or you've stepped it up in some way, shape, or form within a current role. And you've been wearing your badge of honor in many ways. So I think that's really interesting. And with Chiron also being in the 10th, maybe a part of that journey for you did involve having to address something quite difficult within yourself. Could be self-doubt, could be imposter syndrome, those kinds of things maybe tied to your identity, tied to your feelings of okay, yes, I can do this, right? It's this being a champion for yourself with Aries. So maybe there was a trigger point, or there were many points of activation there when it came to a part of you that felt wounded, right? A part of you that felt wounded to do with leadership, to do with asserting yourself. So a lot to learn naturally from those experiences. But you see, coming into 2025, what we're going to see here is that, well, Cancer, wow, I think that you're about to embark on this major new chapter to do with recognition and to do with how you show up publicly, your persona, your public identity. And I think that a lot of this is about bringing forth your spiritual gifts, right? Remember that. Kind of carry forward those spiritual gifts and lessons to do with Neptune in Pisces in the 9th. But then you're also going to do this from a place of inner authority. So to come across as someone who can also bring form to the spiritual, and you can lead other people by doing that. I really think that 2025 is going to invite some interesting new beginnings to do with coaching, asserting yourself, being brave, perhaps, being courageous, perhaps. And you're about to embark on this new professional quest, which I think sounds, as I say, it sounds pretty exciting, Cancer. Still, the retrogrades of Mercury and Venus from March until April, that will invite you to perhaps review, okay, well, what do I actually want from this position? What do I want when it comes to this next step? And how can I even refine my teachings? How can I refine my publications, what I broadcast, what I share? Thank you, Cancer. And now on to Leo. Okay, so Leo, let's talk about you. Let's think about how many years since, especially since 2011, I think you have been trying to come to terms with what's yours versus what's others. I think that has been quite an interesting conversation. And I think at the same time, it's been quite a challenging one Maybe because a big part of your own spiritual journey with Neptune in the eighth has been tied to when you over sacrifice or when you over give. Maybe when we think about how the eighth house is tied to shared accounts and shared resources, we can look at this as people trying to con, people trying to deceive. We can look at this as misplacing money or being misled when it comes to money, these sorts of things. And so perhaps, especially with Saturn being in your eighth since March of 2023, you've really shown up, Leo, and you've been able to say, hey, hold on a second. I need to set a firm boundary here. I need to really think about myself energetically, emotionally. How am I doing? I can't just give everything to you, and a lot of this stuff is unconscious. And a lot of this stuff could also be tied to something much deeper, perhaps even more sinister in a way. When we think about possible traumas, repressed emotions, certain acts from the past where maybe you felt betrayed or hurt, these kinds of things maybe. Or when we consider this more practically, this stuff could be about how you take responsibility when it comes to shared accounts, shared resources. So thinking about, for example, how you and your partner, your significant other, can come together as a way to maybe build, right? To build financially. So there could be those themes. Then again, hey, it could be that there has been a great deal of loss in your life, Leo, over the past number of years. So we see these possibilities. Okay. The thing is that with the North Node now in the eighth house for you, I think what's going to occur is that, well, one, it could be that there is more of a focus, more of an emphasis on that of intimacy, connection, and just bonding with others more from an emotional level. Maybe a part of this will be about gradually trusting, gradually learning to be vulnerable. Maybe those sorts of things have really came up for you over the past number of years as well. Could also be fated connections, what feels like destiny in a way when it comes to intimacy, such as perhaps sharing with another, getting something off your chest, experiencing greater connection or greater intimacy with someone else. So these themes could come up. Okay. Now, as for your ninth house, since July of 2023, I think you've really taken the lead when it comes to your beliefs. And my goodness, do you stand firm on what you believe in? And you have been rather independent about the things that you share and the things that you publish and broadcast there to the world. And at the same time, I think some healing has happened. Maybe trigger points, sensitivity points have come up related to your deeply held beliefs, could be limiting beliefs, for instance, but also perhaps even a travel experience was really eye-opening for you over the past couple of years, or it's that you've went on a significant trip. And hey, this could be physically, it could be that you've been learning more in terms of knowledge through the internet, through books and research, a course. But whatever the case, there's been what feels like an expansion of your mind, greater awareness, just broadening your horizons and new experiences, which maybe have really woken you up to a new sense of freedom and independence. Now, then what we notice is through 2025, you're going to get a glimpse of this new way of maybe sharing or publishing. Maybe even it's tied to higher education or learning something new or taking an advanced training course, something like that, a new program. But you're going to get a glimpse of a new chapter. And I think a part of it will maybe require you to address any of these limiting beliefs that could perhaps block you or get in the way of you embracing this new beginning. So, yes, as I say, this could be a whole new chapter for you, Leo. when it comes to these areas. But then we also want to think about how March, April time, there will be that retrograde of Venus and Mercury. So March, April time, just I think could be an opportunity for you to review and refine more of those intense emotions, those intense feelings, and then equally to refine, to look over what your teachings are. I think, hey, overall, this is about your message. Aries is the self. And so it's about your authenticity. And of course, this is you, Leo. It's all about how you express yourself as an individual. So, yeah, we're going to see you take either your teachings to a whole other level, or it's that you're going to embark on a new journey when it comes to your teachings. It almost feels like you're going to embark on this whole new journey of self-discovery in a way, Leo. Self-exploration, furthering yourself, gaining knowledge. But again, 2025 is the beginning stages. Thank you, Leo. And now on to Virgo. All right, so Virgo, let's talk about you. Let's start off by saying that you have been on a bit of a spiritual quest, a bit of a spiritual journey when it comes to your relationships, your partnerships. I think especially over the past couple of years, you've been quite firm about your boundaries and your limitations, what you're willing to tolerate and not tolerate within your relationships. I think also when let's consider how Neptune can create a fog, a haze. Neptune can be this disillusionment within the chart. It can be where we think everything is fine and dandy and just beautiful and just wonderful. We, of course, can put people on a pedestal and we can idealize them and things like that. And then we later discover that that person was not who we thought they were. And then we're really disappointed. So Saturn coming in and joining up with Neptune has been great because we can use healthy discernment, healthy skepticism, healthy caution, and put in some well-needed, well-adjusted limits. So this is what we're seeing for you, Virgo. But we're also noticing how, of course, you've really stepped up in many ways. You've taken responsibility in many ways when it comes to relationships. And so this is where we're noticing significant growth and change for you, very much so. But you see, the North Node is now in your seventh, and it's entered your seventh January time. We'll be there for the next 18 months. So throughout 2025, we could look at this as your soul's purpose really being drawn towards that of relationships and partnerships. And what this could look like, for instance, is that of fated connections. This doesn't just have to be this fated connection when it comes to your spouse, or when it comes to a spouse rather, or when it comes to a partner. This could also be about clients. This could be about customers, right? This could be a business deal, a business agreement, a business contract. So we could look at this as destiny, so to speak, when it comes to these areas. And it could also feel like, oh my gosh, my dreams are coming true. But just remember, with Saturn in your seventh, in a way, it's kind of good that Saturn's been there, because Saturn's going to help provide this. Okay, well, make sure that the plan is in place and don't fall for tricks or deception and things like that, because Neptune can often point towards deception within the chart. So whatever the case may be, I still think we're seeing this new chapter, but possibly endings that come along with that, of course, to do with partnerships and relationships. Naturally, hey, this could also be a separation, a divorce. There could be certain documents or things put in place where matters are finalized. So there is that, because the seventh house can be about new relationships, but also the ending of relationships. So I just want to say that. Okay, let's then consider how the North Node was in your 8th house since July of 2023. And so you have indeed addressed possible traumas and pains to do with intimacy, your sexuality, things like that. And what's going to happen is Saturn and Neptune are going to come into your 8th throughout 2025. And we could see this new plan in place, this new structure that you want to set in place greater discipline there to do with, hey, could be sexual matters, it could be intimacy, it could be vulnerability. We could even look at this as new beginnings to do with shared accounts, shared resources. Maybe you want to join together with your partner, with a business associate, and build towards something there. Naturally, with Neptune also involved, Neptune can be dreamy and idealistic. Hopefully, with Saturn involved, there can still be included within this healthy forms of skepticism, right? Healthy forms of caution. But whatever the case, 2025 is going to invite the beginning stages of a new chapter here. And lastly, with the retrograde of Venus and Mercury happening March, April time, just take that time to review contracts, agreements, think things over when it comes to relationships. Could involve clients and customers, right? And then also think things over when it comes to more of the shared account stuff. So, for instance, if it is that, hey, it could be throughout the year that you get a new position or you get a promotion or just something opens up for you more professionally when it comes to business. And because of that, you want to put new plans in place based on these new beginnings. But then the retrogrades, it's still about, okay, let's slow it down and let's honestly review what we want to build together. Okay. Because with the eighth house, it's about shared accounts, shared resources, joint financial planning. Thank you, Virgo. And now on to Libra. Okay, Libra, moving on to you. Let's talk about these houses throughout 2025. Well, let's put it this way. For the past number of years, you have been addressing your daily practices, rituals, and routines more so from this place of receptivity, support, healing, spirituality, creativity as well. Maybe to a large extent, you have taken more of a holistic view to do with your daily practices or to do with your services, to do with your work. And maybe at the same time, since March of 2023, what's really been coming up for you is having to assess how much you can realistically, physically give, and also addressing your own health in many respects. Okay, so considering your health, considering your emotional needs, maybe even a part of this has been about charity work, volunteering, wanting to serve others, help others. And we could also look at it as more of this spiritual calling or this spiritual guidance when it comes to work and service. Okay. Then, with the North Node entering your sixth and being there throughout 2025, maybe what could really come into focus for you is what feels like a fated connection or destiny to do with coworker relationships. Could also be maybe visiting a health practitioner, or this could even be a health matter that comes up. And in a way, you're glad that it comes up because then you have time to address it, to heal it, or to change something, maybe about your diet or about your fitness levels or about your productivity levels, your stress levels. Yeah. And maybe as well, it could be that destiny is somehow tied in with your services, with the very work you do, with your occupation. And there are what feels like these miraculous events that happen, or these miraculous results. Could even be where it feels just unbelievable what comes through, right? It's this, how did I get here? Okay, let's now consider how throughout let's think about firstly July of 2023. The North Node was in your seventh. And so what really came into focus for you since then was that of, okay, well, what do I want when it comes to partnerships, business deals, contracts, agreements? What do I want from the deal? Really thinking about focusing on, okay, right, I got to think about myself here. Even what you want in terms of marriage, in terms of long-term committed relationships? What do you want in terms of clients and customers? Who are the kinds of people you want to work for, work with, alongside, collaborate with? All of that stuff I think really came through. And with Chiron involved, maybe there was a moment or a few moments of, oh, I'm not sure. I'm starting to doubt myself. Can I do this? Do I have what it takes? But I think in many ways, the thing about Aries, I think in many ways, you were able to face, to confront a potential wound or to confront any self doubt that came through. Okay, now throughout 2025, then what's going to happen is, well, we could see some ending to do with a daily practice, to do with your services, to do with a health situation. But we could well, yeah, it could be a work related matter there, your occupation. But we could also look at this as the first glimpse, the first new chapter. Okay, well, the beginning of a new chapter to do with things like partnerships, clients, customers. There could be what's going to be ushered in is this new beginning influence. And just remember then, I suppose, the lessons that you have learned over the past couple of years to do with leadership, how you can assert yourself, how you can be this bold and daring and direct leader within one-to-one connections. Still, I think 2025 is going to invite a new sense of power and determination, a new chapter, a new beginning to do with, okay, this is the next step in my journey and it's going to require some hard work, but I've got this. And then the last thing to mention here is the Venus and Mercury retrogrades, which will happen in the 6th, 7th houses, March until April. Just take that time to review, okay, well, what has worked well when it comes to my daily routines and practices? Which rituals are good for me? What do I want to keep up with there? Which kinds of coworkers do I enjoy being around or working with? Is there anything I want to change, maybe about my productivity levels or my health? And then also to refine the ways in which you do show up in partnership with other people, to review maybe the how you show up with your significant other or how it is that you buddy up, you partner up with another. Thank you so much, Libra. And now on to Scorpio. Okay, so Scorpio, let's discuss these houses for you throughout 2025. Firstly, I want to think about how much you have changed and grown when it comes to, well, for one, your romantic relationships, and also children could also be here that it's either that the relationship you have with your children has really changed, or it's that for many of you Scorpios, having children has really been an eye-opening, like this spiritual awakening experience for you over these past number of years. And we also want to think about this through a lens of, well, your creativity. Maybe it's that you've connected with a creative project or with a hobby, a talent in some way, and you're just so spiritually aligned with it. And it's just this creative thing that you love to do, and it just brings you so much joy. It brings you happiness. Yeah, we're noticing these themes over these past number of years. At the same time now, with Saturn being in your 5th house since March of 2023, you've also been asked to commit yourself in a way to maybe address certain blockages or limitations, to refine your skills, to refine your craft, especially if it does involve creativity and to a large extent, Scorpio. But then again, you know what? We could also look at this as you feeling a bit blocked or limited when it comes to fun and play, time off. It's just like, oh my gosh, I never get a minute because any free time I have, I'm always doing something. So we could see this as 2025 maybe indicating a type of end when it comes to this stuff, or a sense of relief, or we could see just you gaining a different perspective about fun and play, about the relationship you have with your children, just about how you spend your time off here, Scorpio. And what I further want to mention is the North Node is now in your 5th. And so throughout 2025, Hey, we could look at this as fated connections, what feels like destiny when it comes to love and romance. Maybe it is that some of you meet a romantic partner, or it's that you get into a new relationship, or it's that you have these strong desires and dreams to do with maybe dating, taking your significant other on a date, trying something new. Then again, hey, this could also be about engagement, marriage, things like that that really come up. In a similar way, we could look at this for Virgos with the North Node in the seventh, but indeed for you, Scorpio, this is what we're seeing. Hey, it could also be fated connections, what feels like destiny when it comes to the very children you have, or when it comes to a certain creative project of yours. So there is that. And at the same time, the North Node was in your sixth since July of 2023. So July until January there, July 2023 and until January there, what really came into focus for you was, okay, well, it's time to direct my life. It's time to be a leader when it comes to work and service. Challenges have happened, maybe mental breakdowns have happened with especially with Chiron involved, a lot of self-doubt, or hey, it could be that your health has taken a hit over the past couple of years. But at the same time, maybe it's that you have figured out a way to sort of, hey, in Scorpio terms, to regenerate, to come up from that, to come out of that, to overcome. And moreover, we can look at this as you really showing up when it comes to coworker relationships. And maybe a big part of this has been about trying something very new, innovating in some way, shape, or form when it comes to work, when it comes to the services you offer, Scorpio, how you show up at work, all these things. Leadership positions come up here, management positions come up here, supervisor roles, team leader roles. Okay. Then what we see is throughout 2025, Saturn and Neptune will come into your sixth. And of course, just remember that this is the beginning stages. And so we could still see new beginnings to do with work. Could be a promotion. It could be a confirmation when it comes to a position. This could be a new health regime, a new fitness routine. This could be wanting to embark on a new journey when it comes to health overall, Scorpio. Again, just remember that this is very much the beginning stages and more will unfold, especially throughout 2026. But what I will say is March, April time with the retrogrades of Mercury and Venus, take some time then, Scorpio, to review your creativity, to review the things that bring you joy and happiness. What do you enjoy doing? And refine even your creative projects. Plus, take some time to review your workload, your productivity, any stress levels, concerns coming through there. Yeah, take your time to ask yourself those questions, to review those matters. Thank you, Scorpio. And now on to Sagittarius. All right, so moving on to Sagittarius, let's think about these houses for you throughout 2025. First thing I want to mention here, Sagittarius, is well, a lot of deception and disillusionment to do with family matters, to do with your home life. And I think, especially since March of 2023, you've had to set healthy, firm boundaries with certain family members. I think that what's really being brought into focus here is how you feel at peace within your home, within yourself, how you can distance yourself, separate yourself from any emotional enmeshment where, there is a lack of boundaries and people within the family, people within the home think that you need to bear all and tell all your secrets and you can't keep anything private. Okay. Heavy stuff to an extent, I think, but also what a journey it has been for you spiritually. So, maybe a big part of the past number of years for you has been about setting up what feels like a personal, peaceful sanctuary. To be in a home, to be in an environment, right, with this living situation that just feels serene, where you can let go, you can feel more calm. Okay, that's what we're getting from this. Maybe to be quite creative or musical and artistic within your home as well, to be able to practice your spiritual gifts. And then what do we see? 2025, the North Node coming into Pisces. And so hey, 2025 could invite what feels like destiny when it comes to certain family members. So, for instance, it could be that you reconnect with a family member and then you realize, oh my goodness, I mean, why have we not connected like this before? Or it could be a situation where it feels fated when it comes to a living situation, right? So maybe you enter into a certain environment and you think, oh, this is where I need to live. Oh, I need to relocate to this area. I need to be by the sea. I need to be by the water here, right? Or this could be more so just about the ways in which you show up within your home in general. And it's more so about connecting with a higher power, or it's about embracing, again, we go back to those spiritual practices, those spiritual gifts. So it's just following that same sort of path and aligning with it, refining things in some way. Maybe as well, a part of this is about supporting yourself emotionally, helping yourself through things, leaning on certain family members as a way to support you emotionally too. Okay, let's then think about how the North Node was in your fifth house, July. So since July of 2023 up until January of 2025. So what came into focus there with the North Node in your fifth in Aries were these themes to do with your individuality, your freedom, your self expression, how you can be authentic in the ways in which you express yourself, how you can maybe even defend and protect your own children if you have any, how you can also stand up for what you believe in when it comes to your creativity, when it comes to your creative projects and your hobbies. And maybe as well, a big thing came into focus to do with time off, right? And you saying to yourself, hey, you know what, all this working, all this doing, is it really good for me? Do you know what? Actually, I want more time off. I want more time for me. And maybe also with Chiron in your fifth, there were some triggering moments to do with your individuality or your ego or having to protect it. Or possibly even there could have been some really harsh moments to do with romantic relationships, having to address maybe a very complicated, a very triggering experience with your lover, with your romantic partner. And maybe for some of you Sagittarians out there, it was a breakup, it was a betrayal, it was having to leave a certain relationship in the past. For others of you, it's sort of like, okay, well, how are we going to address this? How are we going to get through this? Okay, but then you see, we come to 2025 and Saturn and Neptune will enter into your fifth house throughout the year. Of course, this is just going to be a taster, this beginning chapter, right? But 2025 could invite then some new beginning to do with a hobby, to do with a creative project, to do with a romantic relationship. This could be about, for instance, you putting in the work when it comes to a romantic relationship. You and that romantic partner, of course, coming together and thinking, right, okay, well, what are the solid steps? What's the plan we can put in place? But maybe as well with Neptune involved, it's still about the fantasy world, make believe, right? We think about this perhaps sexually, right? Sexual expression to do with the fifth house, how you can maybe even spice up the relationship a little bit of spontaneity, okay? But then again, we could also look at this through a lens of, okay, there's a creative vision in mind to do with your creativity, right? To do with a hobby, and you want to run with it. Of course, this is you, Sagittarius. You tend to do this whenever there is a project. You're like, I want to run with that wild and free, baby, go. And that's great. But you see, Saturn joining up slightly could actually give you the momentum that you need, could actually give you some patience and can ground you slightly. Hopefully, when you lean into the caution, the discipline of Saturn a little bit. So, yeah, I'm getting from this possibly you embarking on a new journey, a new chapter to do with your hobbies, to do with a creative project of some kind, right? Whether this be about media, art, film, It could be like a physical practice. Hey, with Aries, it could really involve sports. And hey, the fifth house is even about sports. Maybe a part of this even is about competition, healthy competition. Maybe even a part of this is about joining some new sporty activity, or an activity where just you have that freedom, that space to move fast. Could even involve biking or racing or fighting. These Aries themes, Martian themes. But you see, Mercury and Venus retrograde in these signs for you throughout 2025. So more so March until April time. You will have an opportunity to refine, to review these family matters, these living situation scenarios that perhaps are a bit more difficult to look at, to address, but then also to refine what it is that you want to do creatively. What does that look like? What is it you want to do when it comes to sports and this competitive spirit tied to the fifth house and Aries? Oh, yeah. I think in a lot of ways, it's about outbeating your personal best. Thank you so much, Sagittarius. And now on to Capricorn. Okay, so Capricorn, let's talk about these houses for you throughout 2025. Let's begin just even by addressing how well, perhaps you have been what feels like a bit of a spiritual quest, a bit of a spiritual journey when it comes to your mind. We can look at this as enlightening moments, awakening moments to do with your thoughts, to do with maybe accessing different corners of your mind, so to speak, that you never thought possible, that you never imagined before. Hey, we could even look at this as something very new and different being ushered in over the past couple of years to do with relocating, more so within your local environment, within your local area. But maybe because of such a move, because of such a change, you've been opened up, to other opportunities, right? There's that sense of expansion, I suppose you could say, because Pisces is Jupiter ruled. But then again, we could also look at this as you showing up more so on social media. Okay. You may be presenting spiritual subjects or painting things in a really lovely way, showing them in a lovely, beautiful light, and getting your message across in a pretty intuitive way as well, Capricorn. Maybe you've really been working with your intuition in many ways over the past couple of years. But then also, I think with Saturn being in your third since March of 2023, there's been more of a strategy in place, more of a focus on building, where it's like, okay, let's build momentum here when it comes to social media, when it comes to my research, when it comes to my writing. There's maybe this refinement of your skills actually when it comes to communication in general and learning. So that's really amazing. Now, with the North Node coming into your third house throughout 2025, hey, we can look at this as a fated connection, perhaps to do with, could be siblings, could be cousins. So, for instance, a sibling you never realized you had, a cousin you never realized you had, or reconnecting with a sibling after many years of not talking, or a cousin. Or this could be about aunties or uncles. Maybe also this is about destiny, so to speak, when it comes to your writing, when it comes to communication or social media. It could even be that you're introduced to someone who's quite well established on social media, or it's that there is greater success in a way to do with social media in some way, shape, or form. And maybe also a part of this destiny, so to speak, to do with the North Node and the third. Hey, it could be tied to vehicles, transportation, right? So maybe some spiritual gifts or blessings coming through. All right. Now, let's focus here on how, since July of 2023, the North Node was in your fourth. So, what we have been seeing is, yes, indeed, you possibly moving homes, right? You could have moved house from July 2023 up until January 2025 about that, or it's that you've really shown up as a leader, as someone who is brave. Maybe it's that you have, maybe you've become a parent, maybe you've become a guardian, maybe you've taken on something like a greater responsibility, so to speak, to do with family and home. Or it's that you've shown up for your parents, your own parents in many ways. Or it's that you've acted in a parental way towards another. And maybe as well, throughout the process, things have been triggering because Chiron has been in your fourth. And so we could look at this as a wound to do with family. We could look at this through a lens of loss or hurt or pain or betrayal, a rejection, maybe having to address repetitive cycles, family patterns, things like that, breaking family cycles, for instance, which I'm sure has not been easy. But with Aries is like, yep, face the challenge, confront it, head on. Okay, now throughout 2025, then what's going to happen is as what feels like endings are happening to do with perhaps communication, how you get from A to B, when it comes to how you show up within your local area, as those endings may be going on, what's also emerging, what's also starting to renew, or there's a birthing, I suppose, to do with family, to do with your living situation. It could actually be that you decide, you know what, I want to move out of this place and buy my own place. It could be that you want to permanently reside within a certain area for a long period of time, and you don't want it just to be for the now, you want it to be for the future. It could be that property comes through, wanting to invest in property, or it's that you really want to set up this structure, this stronger foundation to do with family, home, your living situation overall. Neptune, of course, will also be a part of this. And so, hey, Neptune can say, dream up the dream, have the vision. What do you visualize when it comes to home and family? And hopefully with Saturn involved in a way, there are those healthy levels, healthy levels of caution involved, right? Yes. But I just want to say, this is just the beginning stages, right? It's the beginning stages of what's to come. And I think you may find yourself getting quite excited about the next chapter, especially because this stuff it's so personal, right? It's so much about your living situation. It's so much about you, even because Saturn rules you. Saturn is tied to your very identity in this way. Okay, now, as for the retrogrades, Mercury and Venus retrograde will happen March until April. Use that time, Capricorn, to review, okay, when it comes to social media, when it comes to communication or learning or writing, how can I refine things? Anything I want to change? Let me just go over the plan here. Let me go over things. Anything I want to bring to a close. And then also look over this property stuff. If it is ownership, definitely, but also just in general, it's about reviewing your living situation, even your emotional identity, because hey, the fourth house is even about our feelings, our emotional needs. Maybe those things are going to be highlighted as Saturn and Neptune go into the fourth. And a big part of this will be about meeting your emotional needs, advocating for your emotional needs. Thank you so much, Capricorn. And now on to Aquarius. All right, moving on to Aquarius. Let's talk about you. Well, over the past number of years, I think what has really been brought into focus for you is, okay, what is the dream when it comes to your finances, when it comes to your resources? How much money do you want to make? How many resources do you want to accumulate? Maybe you've had a bit of this idealistic view when it comes to these matters and areas, to be quite honest. Or it's that you have been quite dreamy, or you've been living in a world of fantasy and make believe slightly. But hey, we could also look at this as you drawing from your skills and gifts of imagination, creativity, dance, art, film, photography. Yeah, just being very in the flow when it comes to your artistic gifts, your creative gifts here, Aquarius. But you see, Saturn in your second sense, March of 2023 has been a bit of a hard lesson for you. I think what you've really had to focus on is, okay, well, how can I plan for my future? How can I structure things when it comes to my resources and my finances instead of just dreaming of things or fantasizing about things? How can I actually build? What do I want to create long term? What about planning? And thinking more so about committing myself, right, to show discipline, especially when we think about your personal earnings, your personal resources, Aquarius. But you see, the North Node is now in your second house. And so throughout 2025, we could actually look at this as you maybe tuning in more with your intuition, aligning more with your intuition when it comes to resources and finances, your security as well. We could also look at it as aligning with those spiritual gifts of yours, drawing from your spiritual skills, or looking more so at destiny and fate with relation to what you value. Hey, this could be what feels like a fated connection tied to finances, right? This could be some sort of financial opportunity that occurs and it makes all of your dreams come true. Or it could be where you feel really aligned with a certain source of income, or like, I'm so glad I waited, or I'm so glad I put in the work. Maybe even a big part of it too is about surrender, right? Because that's the thing with Pisces. As I say, Pisces is also about endings. So there could be some endings to do with a source of income, a way that you save, a way that you budget, a way that you spend your money. Something could come to an end there when it comes to these matters, basically, here, Aquarius. Plus, since July of 2023, with the North Node being in your third, you've really had an opportunity to go full steam ahead, to strive in many ways, to assert yourself in many ways when it comes to communication. Even thinking about how you show up on social media could also be about how you write, could be about how you research. Maybe learning has been a big focus for you. And a big part of your learning is about authenticity and maybe speaking boldly, speaking bravely. It's about finding your own voice, I think, even within a sea of information, Aquarius, and staying true to your individuality, staying true to who you are when it comes to your writing or learning. And at the same time, with Chiron involved, maybe there were moments of, oh, I can't do this. People probably think I'm speaking nonsense. Or it could be where you felt in a way hurt or wounded by what people have said to you. And maybe you've had to address this rejection or address these fears of being ridiculed, maybe for what you say. Could even be rejections or wounds or pains to do with sibling relationships, for instance. Okay. As for Saturn and Neptune are actually going to enter into your third house throughout 2025. And of course, this is just the beginning stages. It's the beginning stages. But what we could look at this as is you being your own authority when it comes to communication, you being called to really direct your life in terms of learning, in terms of communication, and saying, you know what, actually, yeah, I've shown up, I've put in a lot of work, and I've focused on what I communicate. And because of that, I am now open to a new chapter. So it could be, for instance, where you feel this calling to start something new with relation to communication or social media or some new role, a new professional role related to media. Could be that. It could also be a new course, a new practice, a new study that you take on. And that's very much a part of what you want to build towards. You want to grow and develop then when within these areas. Naturally, with Neptune involved in this, it's also about this vision. It's also about this dream. And hopefully, in a way, believing in miracles, believing that, hey, you know what? Yes, I can do this. Those idealistic parts of Neptune, delusional parts as well. But the thing is, I think with Saturn involved, hopefully you're not going to get too carried away within that. Hopefully, with Saturn and Neptune, there can be a blend of the two rather than a clash of the titans. Hopefully, it can be a nice blend of, okay, I have a vision. This is my creative vision in mind when it comes to maybe research, what I'm writing, a book I want to write. When it comes to a job I want to enter into, a position. When it comes to how I present myself on social media. But equally, I'm going to show healthy responsibility and healthy caution. All right. So then we also want to think about March until April, there will be the retrogrades of both Mercury and Venus in these houses. Take the time then, Aquarius, just to go over what you're wanting to maybe let go off a little bit to do with finances, to do with the source of income, your security, and then think about this rebirth, so to speak, with Aries, new beginnings chapters. So review and refine this way that you maybe think about yourself or how you communicate your message, how you show up more so from this place of, hey, you know what? This is what I think. This is what I know because I've been doing my research and moving from that place of confidence, right? Thank you so much, Aquarius. And now on to Pisces. All right. So, last but certainly not least, Pisces, let's explore you. Let's think about Aries and Pisces in your chart. Well, let's begin by saying, Pisces, what a spiritual journey it has been for you over the past number of years. I think many of you have been experiencing major spiritual awakenings. I think a lot of this stuff has even been about new chapters, new beginnings, reinventing yourselves, starting anew, starting afresh. Identity changes have happened left, right, and center. And sure, perhaps especially at the beginning of Neptune being in your sign, which was around 2011, it may have felt a bit more hazy, a bit more foggy, or sort of like, oh my gosh, how much am I taking on from other people? And what am I absorbing? Which kinds of thoughts and feelings and views about the world am I letting be a part of my space? And actually, how can I maneuver through that or move away from that? Especially when we think about how, since March of 2023, Saturn then entered into your sign. So, Saturn, in a way, has been quite beneficial in that you've been able to set healthy limits and boundaries for yourself. Now, with that being said, that within itself maybe has felt quite uncomfortable, and maybe you have fallen off track, so to speak, where you've had to sort of think, okay, right, yeah, I fell down there, or I let that person completely go against what I wanted, but I'm going to learn from that. I am going to learn from that. I'm going to learn about how to have stronger, firmer boundaries with others, with myself. Hey, that's another thing. I mean, this stuff could even be related to what you do on a day-to-day level, right? So thinking even about the kind of relationship maybe you have with food or with work or with anything that you do on a daily basis. And hey, it could even be slightly about any addictive tendencies, so addressing those things being brought into focus by Saturn, I think. And maybe as well, this has been so much about your body. Okay, your body, your well-being, your vitality, how you look after yourself, Pisces. So we could say then over the past few years, you've put in pretty good limitations, I think. And with the North Node now being in your sign for the next year, right? Well, 18 months, but throughout 2025, we're going to see here then this really interesting thing happen where you're going to just say, hey, you know what? Intuitively, this is what's happening and I'm following it. I don't care what other people think about that. I'm following it. And I think also we can look at this as what feels like fate, what feels like destiny when it comes to a new chapter, when it comes to something that completely changes your identity, your sense of self. And naturally, that could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be a career move, it could be a health situation that comes up, it could be an appearance situation that happens, surgeries, for example. But essentially, yes, I think 2025 is going to be so much about your individuality and you choosing yourself. And that within itself has been supported in a way by Saturn through your sign, right? Because Saturn has followed that path first, and well, the path of Pisces, and has been about, right, okay, well, that's not working, that's not working. You need to put firmer boundaries in there. It needs to be more solid here. And then because of that, the North Node sort of comes in and just sort of eases the way through. It just, because of the work you've already put in, maybe things really do feel aligned. This could be about responsibility. This could be about a new professional role. This could be about recognition, for goodness sake, being recognized for your spiritual gifts, for instance. Okay. Now, as for Aries, the North Node has been in, well, it was in Aries from July of 2023 up until January of 2025 in your second house, Pisces. So that period, I think, was about, okay, having the audacity, having the courage and bravery to look at your value, to look at your self-worth, and to sort of bring it into focus and say, how am I going against myself? How can I show up and be brave and say, hey, you know what? Yes, I am good at this, or these are my skills. These are my talents, my gifts, and being a leader, then being a bit of a pioneer, a trailblazer, and also just having that courage, having that will and bravery to say, you know what, this is the kind of money that I want to make, or this is the sort of security, the physical security that I want to set up for myself. And then with Chiron being involved in this slightly, I think Pisces, what has came through slightly for you is addressing maybe a self-worth wound, self-doubt, imposter syndrome could have came up for you, maybe battles to do with your identity, battles to do with leadership and asserting yourself slightly, Pisces. But then we come to 2025 and Saturn and Neptune being one of your rulers, will enter Aries throughout 2025. And what I'm about to say here is just the beginning stages, but we could see then think about how Neptune is going to come in first to Aries. You could have a vision in mind, a dream in mind to do with resources, finances, to do with your physical security, your skills, your talents. You could have this vision in mind, and maybe a part of it is about letting go or embracing this new chapter, so to speak, starting afresh. But Saturn, you see, will also follow through or follow into the second house and can maybe act as this supportive guide or this supportive holding force, where it is about trying not to get caught up too much in the ideals or the dream or the fantasy of the thing. Also remember to ground yourself, continue to refine your craft, continue to practice your skills. This is what I'm getting. It's building for something long term. It's building for your future when it comes to your personal resources and finances, Pisces. Again, this is more the beginning stages. And lastly, then here, when we think about how the retrogrades of Mercury and Venus will happen in these houses for you, March until April, just take that time then, Pisces, to honestly review, okay, my health, my body, my appearance, my identity, and to also then refine and then review, okay, what is it that I want when it comes to acquiring resources, materials, my earnings, how I make a living, these things being brought into focus. And naturally, as time goes on, right, coming into 2026 and beyond, we're going to see both Saturn and Neptune move into Aries, and new chapters are very much going to happen within these areas for you. But just as much, hey, with the Pisces part of it, endings, things coming to a close, letting go, moving on, when it comes to maybe this this situation tied to your identity, when it comes to your sense of self. New beginnings, certainly for you, Pisces. And such new beginnings, I think, are sort of urging you to follow your spiritual path. Thank you, Pisces. And with that, everybody, this has been your Aries Pisces houses throughout 2025. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like to book a reading with me, you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. And if you did enjoy your horoscopes today, you can always buy me a coffee. But with that, thank you so much. All the best this year, everybody. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye.